For those who do not know who I am, my name is George Santana. I'm one of the many volunteers here at the church. And I'm just honored because I get to share with you our second part series called Money Talks. Now, last week, Bert did the first part, and he talked about what would money say to you if it can actually talk. And to start off this conversation today, I would like to ask you a specific question. And that question is, are you in charge of your money, or is your money in charge of you? So are you in charge of your money, or is your money in charge of you? Now, I'm sure most of you right now are saying, of course, I'm in charge of my money, George. I earn it, I save it, I spend it. I'm in control of my money. And I thought the exact same thing you did, all right? But let me give you guys a quick example. Has anyone ever gone on a Publix run, Target run, Trader Joe's run by any chance? Right? Yeah, we all gone there, right? I love Trader Joe's. That's just why I say Trader Joe's, right? And this is not like a specific grocery run where you're going there to buy a lot of stuff. This is something where you're like, I need 2-3 items. I know what I'm going in for, and that's all I need. And you walk into the store, right? But for some weird reason, instead of going straight to the aisle where the items are, so you can just grab them, you start exploring the store like if you were just like Dora the Explorer, right? You're like, oh my God, look at all these beautiful things over here. And then you look down and you have a shopping cart. What? How did I even get this shopping cart? And then next thing you know, you're looking at the person in the registry and they're going like this. Beep, 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 beep. Stop. No more. Stop. Right? Then you get to the car, you're putting all this stuff away, and you say to yourself, oh my God, this is so much unnecessary stuff that I probably didn't need at this moment. Anyone can relate? Anyone ever been in that situation before? I have. I like to feed this bad boy a lot. My wife knows. Thank you, baby, for feeding me all the time. So after hearing that example, I want to ask you the exact same question once again. Are you in control of your money, or is your money in control of you? Now, at this moment, something I believe money will say to us, if it can actually speak to us, will be, the moment you think you own me, I actually own you. The moment you think you actually own me, I really own you. And to prove this to you, I want you to think about a time in your life where maybe you got that job that you've been wanting. Or maybe you got a promotion, right? And because of that promotion or that new job, you start making a little bit more money. And I want you to think about that time and ask yourself right after that, did you, by any chance, upgrade your car? Did you maybe upgrade your house? Maybe a better apartment, 2-2, maybe went to a 3-2 by any chance? Or how about you upgrade your closet, right, ladies? I see you somewhere there with some nice fancy shoes. I see you. Or maybe you started traveling more. And the funny thing about this is that the more we go down this rabbit hole, the more we notice that we become slaves to our money and all the possessions that we have with us. And it's hard because we're not perfect, We are all going to make mistakes. And the only way that we can truly stop doing these mistakes is if we allow God to have control in our life. All right? So, one thing that I want to let you know is that it's okay. There's some light at the end of the tunnel. And the good news is that Jesus actually warns us about what money is saying to us right now. And we can actually see what Jesus is telling us in a specific parable. And in this parable, it's about 3 servants that are actually managing their master's wealth. Okay? So if you're new to the church, a parable is something that within that parable, there's a God figure and there's an us figure. A God figure representing God, and then an us figure representing us, which follow Jesus Christ. Okay? So let's go real quick to that parable. That parable is going to be Matthew chapter 25, verse 14 through 29. It's called the parable of the bags of gold, or also known as the parable of the talents. Okay? So let me get here with you guys real quick, because I think they messed it up here with me. Ba, ba, ba. Boom. Can't find it. What happened here? Got it. You don't have to be perfect to be up here, guys, by the way. So Jesus says, verse 14, again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted, I want you to focus on that word, entrusted his wealth to them. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and to another 1, each according to his ability. And he went on a journey. The man who had received 5 bags went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 more. So also, the one who had 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. But the man who had received 1 bag went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of the servants returned to settle his accounts with them. And the man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted, there's that word again, entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I have gained 5 more. Verse 21, his master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. The man with the 2 bags also came and said, Master, you have entrusted me, there's that word again, with 2 bags of gold. See, I have gained 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Verse 24. The man who had received 1 bag of gold came. Master, he said, I knew that you were a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out there and hid your gold in the ground. See, here's what belongs to you. His master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. Well then, you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest. So take the bag of gold from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. For whoever has been given more, they will have an abundance. Now that's a powerful parable. And the reason why is because there's a few things that we can learn from that parable. The first thing we can learn is that the servants were just managers, not owners of their master's money, right? The second thing we learn is that since they were not owners, they did not keep any of the profits that they made their master. And then the third thing that we learn is that 2 of the servants invested their master's money. Now remember, the reason they didn't get to keep the profits was because 100% of the money was their master's from the beginning. Does that make sense? So when we think about God, God expects us to manage his wealth the exact same way that this master expected his servants to save and invest their money. So, to help you understand a little bit more what Jesus is trying to say in this parable, let's pretend that you make a decision to go hire a financial advisor, okay? And you say, you know what, we want to hire a financial advisor because we want someone that's responsible, that's accountable, that can help us manage our finances the way we want to so we can have a good retirement and live from now on. Safe to say? So you make a decision, you sit down with a financial advisor, they share with you the game plan, they say, listen, this is how we're going to invest your money, this is what we're going to do. You see the game plan, you're excited. You're like, this is pretty good. I like the return that I'm going to get back in my money. And you make a decision and you hire that financial advisor. So you're excited, a few months have passed by, you can't wait to meet up with them again to see how your investments are going. So you sit down with this financial advisor again after a few months, and this time things are a little different. You notice that the financial advisor is not as excited to see you. They're a little down. and you look at them and you say, hey, is everything okay? Like, I'm excited to find out what you've done with my portfolio and my investments. And they just look at you and they say, the truth is, I'm not that accountable, and I really don't know what I'm doing with your money, and I really have no idea where your money is and where I have it invested. The reaction that you guys have right now in your face is the exact reaction I would have at that moment. I would be boiling inside if I had someone tell me that, right? And the reason you will feel that way is because you entrusted this person with your money. Now, I'm pretty sure the next word that's coming out of your mouth is, you're fired. It's time for a new financial advisor. Now, the good thing is that God gives us grace, okay? So we're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. But we have God's grace to be able to move forward. But there's something I would love to ask you after you heard that. And that question is, see if you go next slide. Are you responsible or accountable when it comes down to managing God's money? Or are you that financial advisor that God is going to have to fire? Now, like I said, thank God that he has grace for us. And it's okay because there's some things that we can do from now on to change it and become better stewards and better managers of God's money. So there's 5 things that I would love to talk to you that we can start doing with money. 5 things that most people in this world start doing with money, okay? And those 5 things are going to be, first, we can spend our money. Second, we can repay back our debt. Third, we can save and invest it the same way that the servants did for his master. Fourth, we can pay back taxes. And then fifth, we can give it. Now, the interesting part about this order is that for some weird reason, we do it the exact same way. We spend it, we pay back debt, we save and invest, we pay back taxes, and then we give it, right? But let me show you something really interesting about this list, something that I noticed about this list. And the first thing I noticed is when we spend our money, that has to do with me. That has to do with you. The second thing, which is we pay back debt, has to do with me as well. Has to do with you. The third thing is we save and invest. Once again, it has to do with me. It has to do with you. Number 4, we pay back taxes. Well, that has to do with America, but there's a me in America, right? Let's just be honest, right? And then last, we put God and others. See, the problem with this order is that God and others come last. They get the leftovers of our money. This is called me first living. You're always going to be putting yourself first in this order. And it's okay because usually we learn this from society. You know, we're born, raised this way, our families, our friends. This is what we're taught to do. And that's okay, guys, because once again, I want to remind you of God's grace. All right? But the cool thing about this is that Jesus, when he shows up, he literally flips the script on this list. And I want to show you in a verse where he shares that with you, which is going to be Matthew chapter 6, verse 21. Let me read that to you. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So what's your treasure? It's your stuff. Your money, your house, your cars, your clothes, all of that stuff. Even your hope is your treasure. What Jesus is trying to say here is that where your treasure is, your heart is going to follow. Does that make sense? It's going to follow it. It's just common sense because money and your heart are so attached together that when we do that, we're just following where our money is going. Now, one thing I want you to understand is that Jesus is not trying to shame us at this moment. The only thing Jesus is trying to do for us is share with us a principle that we can start living our lives by. And when you think about what Jesus is trying to say is, in this verse is, where your money is, wherever gets your money is getting your attention. So all these things, the clothes, the cars, the vacations, all these things have a small little piece of our hearts. It says it right there. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. All these things have a small little piece of our hearts. Now, one thing that I do want you to understand is that Jesus is not after your money. He's not after your things. He's truly after your heart, guys. He's after my heart. The only way that he can have that is if you allow him to take possession of your finances by putting him first. So once again, let me go back to that list. I'm sorry, not back to the list. Before that, I want to talk to you about what money will say at this moment. And that is, my direction reveals your affection. Once again, this is connection within your heart and money. My direction reveals your affection. Go back to it real quick, please, Stephen. Thank you. My direction reveals your affection. You can go to the next one, please. So, what's important to you? Where is your heart? Now let's go back to that list. Because we talked about the list, and the first thing that we can do is we can spend it, which has to do with me. We can repay back debt, which also has to do with me, has to do with you. We can save it and invest it, which has to do with me, has to do with you. Pay back taxes, same thing. And then God and others comes last. But if we focus on that verse, Matthew chapter 6, verse 21, and we allow Jesus in our hearts, this list actually flips around. It really flips around. Now, this doesn't mean that you guys have to give all your possessions away, that you have to give all your money away, because if you do that, that's irresponsible, right? But you know what's irresponsible as well? To save all your money, to invest all your money, so you can retire on a good life, to think about yourself all the time. In God's eyes, that's pretty irresponsible. So let's take a look at the new list that Jesus invites you to flip over. And that new list is, we put first God and others. So what do? We give. You know, when you're like this, standing and your hands are open, you can receive, but you can give at the same time, right? But when you're like this, and you're thinking about yourself first, and you're trying to hold all this money, how are you going to receive any more if your hands are closed? Does that make sense? So you have to be willing to put God and others first. Second, you repay back debt. Remember, the borrower is slave to the lender. You never want to have debt. Pay back your debt, guys. Third, you can save money and start investing once you're out of debt. Fourth, we can pay back our taxes, because we know if we don't, Uncle Sam is coming along and knocking on our door. We do not want that, right? And then last, we can live on what's left. You see, by putting God and others first, you're doing exactly what Jesus did for us. This allows Jesus to be in control of your finances because you put him first, and this allows you to have more financial margin. Now, you're probably asking, okay, George, what do you mean by more financial margin? Well, let's take a look at this statement right here. Matthew chapter 6, verse 23. But seek first the kingdom and righteousness. Seek first the kingdom and righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. All these things will be added to you. So you're probably asking, well, what are all these things? Well, these things are not the stuff that we want. There's a lot of things that we want in life, but we're not going to get. I don't care how much you pray to God about it. I don't care how much you give to God and say, I expect this in return. That's not how it works. He's going to give you what you need to survive, what you need to live. 4 walls, your food, your water, the essentials that you need to survive. And these are things that make us rich. Bert talked about this last week. The average income in the world for you to consider yourself rich is $37,000. Isn't that crazy? We live in Miami. We're like, no way we can live on $37,000 a year. And if you were somebody and they make $37,000, you can kind of get by. But when you think about it, you're actually rich if you make $37,000 a year. So I encourage you guys to start making a decision and reprioritizing your list. And the first thing you do, you put God and others first. You give. Listen, if you don't want to give to the church, I totally understand. It's okay. Start somewhere different. Find an organization. Find a foundation you believe in. And go serve them for a little bit. And see what they're doing in your community. And if you like it, start giving back. There's a lot of people out there that need your help. My wife and myself, we give back to Miami Church because we believe in the mission that they're doing here in the city of Miami, which is helping people find and follow Jesus. And that's what the gospel is about and why we give back. The second thing is we can repay back debt. We don't want you guys to be in debt. We don't want you to be the borrower, slave to the lender. Third, save and invest your money. Fourth, pay back your taxes. Very important. And then fifth, we want you to live on what's left. I hope that this message helped you guys and uncover some things that you would like to change in your life.
We're going to transition now into our time of communion. And communion is the time each week when we take time out to celebrate and to remember. We remember Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection for the forgiveness of our sins. But we also take time to celebrate that. It seems kind of odd. We celebrate someone's death. But Jesus' death, again, was the coverage of our sins. And that's something we can celebrate, that we can be in a right relationship with God because of the sacrifice that Jesus made for us. So right now, let's take of the bread and take of the juice and celebrate and remember what Jesus' sacrifice means for us.